All right, we're gonna get started here. My name is Rico Mallozzi. I work at Sapphire Ventures. We're a multi-stage venture capital firm investing in enterprise and consumer Web3 projects. And it was funny because when we started our Web3 fund, our consumer fund about 3.5 years ago, we said we're investing at the nexus of tech, culture, and community. And at that time, little did we know how big Web3 was going to be part of that. I think we got the hypothesis right, and now we're moving towards the technology that's going to power all of that. But I'm super excited to have the conversation today with three entrepreneurs who are really defining Web3 and culture. To my right, Nhan Phan, CTO of Metaplex Studios, Crain, CEO of SuperRare Labs, and Roneil Rumburg, CEO of Audius. So first, I'd like for the panelists maybe to introduce themselves, and describe what you do at each of your respective organizations.
Hey everyone. Thank you for the kind introduction. So I'm the CTO at Metaplex, and the question is, what is Metaplex? And Metaplex is both the standard and smart contracts and the protocol and the tooling ecosystem for Solana NFTs. So you might not know this, but all Solana NFTs are actually Metaplex NFTs as well. So what do I do there? Technology stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Hey everyone, so my name is John, the CEO and co-founder of SuperRare Labs. We've been around since 2018, and I'd say we're probably the best one-of-one NFT marketplace. I'll let you guys decide, but focused on art and culture really, and I guess one thing to note, we launched our DAO last summer, and now we're exploring what it means to decentralize curation.
Hey everyone, I'm Roneil. I'm one of the co-founders of Audius, which is a music discovery and community platform that connects artists and fans directly with one another. So they can share content, engage, hang out, and have a good time. Today serve about 7 million fans every month and 250,000 or so artists. And I'm one of the co-founders, so I don't know what I do now. I just show up to things like this and hang out.
Great. So I want to start the first question with John. As someone who works so close to creators, what do you believe that creators truly care about, and how has Web3 kind of transformed the creator-fan relationship, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think, creators care about a lot of different things. One of the ones that, I think NFTs are well suited for is monetization, right? This is a technology that allows creators to get closer to fans, but also more appropriately monetize, content directly. So I think, royalties obviously is something very interesting, very important that are, enabled with NFTs. And then I think at the same time, right, creative individuals care about, how things look. And so I think there's, a lot of emphasis on, like, at least for our community, it's like how NFTs are displayed, and also ease of use of the tooling. Right, I think it's still kind of early days and a little rudimentary, so that's also something that is top of mind for lots of creators.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and creators care about community, right? And I think the lines in Web3 between creator and community become blurred. In some instances, the community becomes part of the creator with them on their journey, and I think it's been really exciting to see some of the artists kind of really embrace that. Nhan, the question I wanted to ask you is, in your January fundraising blog, I was reading it, and there was one term in there that I caught that I thought was kind of interesting, and first time I heard it, so I'd love for you to explain it, but you described being, the technology to power the people-first metaverse. What do you describe as the kind of the people-first metaverse?
Yeah, I think we just liked that term because it kind of rhymed, but we'll jump into it. I think it's important to understand the context of what Metaplex's mission is, right? it's to empower creators to build new worlds. And we actually mean creators broadly, right? Artists, musicians, but also random people taking selfies. So we're all creators, right? And it doesn't have to be necessarily art. And I think as we move into the future, right, creation can happen on a financial level or a utility level. I think the sky's the limit right now. So we also think building new worlds, therefore, is very broad. And ultimately, it's to help the creator connect to their community. So why is that important or interesting as it relates to the metaverse, right? I can imagine two different ways that the metaverse evolves. The first is very obvious. It's just translate whatever we've got in Web 2 and just put it in Web 3, right? And currently, it's the platforms that own the relationship between the creator and their communities, right? And I think and of course I take all the economics, and secondly, I think that there's an unintended consequence of actually homogenizing the experiences that creators are able to provide, right? Because they're locked in and this is just how tech platforms work. So the second way is communities can obviously engage directly and have an earnest and authentic relationship with the creator. And they can own that relationship too and curate something that is special for them digitally and personalized. And I think in aggregate, right, this is what we mean by the people first metaverse, right? We're trying to build the right set of tools to bring power back to the people.
No, that's great. I've heard another founder describe the metaverse, I thought this was pretty eloquent, as not a destination, but a dimension for us to experience together. Oftentimes we talk about it as an end state, but it's really just a new state that we can all operate in. Roneil, when I think of an industry that seems ripe for Web3 disruption, I think music kind of comes first to my mind, and it's also so emblematic of culture itself. As a pioneer in creating, one of the first Web3 kind of music applications, where do you see it go from here? How do you see it transforming the creation and distribution of music?
Yeah. So, I think a little bit of context here is helpful just on the broader music industry. So today, music generates about $42 billion a year in revenue. Only 12% of that actually makes it to artists, the people who are making music and playing shows and selling their merch. All of the proceeds of all of that, only 12% is making it to them. And we believe the source of that inequity is really that artists and fans don't have any direct relationship or ability to interact directly with one another in today's market. So when we look ahead 5 years, 10 years from now, the future that we're building towards, and I think many others in kind of this intersection point of Web3, decentralized tech, and music, is a future music economy where artists and fans are connecting directly, engaging directly, consuming services, merchandise, experiences from one another directly. And that's not to say that there won't be a lot of the intermediaries that we have in the market today, but it will be a reorientation of control and kind of the ability for the artist to elect to or not to work with those folks, rather than being required oftentimes by law to work with them. So that's the future we're building towards, and I think where Audius sees itself in that future is as the foundation of those artist-fan relationships, the place where artists would want to aggregate those relationships to be able to use them across different products, different experiences, but also the best place to monetize that set of relationships.
No,
It's super interesting. I think if you look across the board, or just across the space, it's sovereignty is a big part of this, and like, you know, it should be opt-in, right? You shouldn't be like legally bound for the rest of your life as a musician to, you know, a specific record label, or, you know, it's like these types of services should be opt-in, and it should be focused kind of around artist sovereignty rather than, you know, like, obviously them making 12% is pretty ridiculous. Those economics should probably be reversed.
Yeah, as a point of comparison, I mean, it's not perfect, but you know, you could argue that professional sports are a similarly talent-driven business. Most sports leagues actually have structured compensation packages where fixed percentage of league revenue makes it to players. In the NBA, I believe that's 55%. In the NFL, I believe it's over 50% as well. But yeah, that's feels closer to correct.
Yeah.
The difference is that they've been able to collectively bargain for those packages. They have unions and things like this. Music and music creators are fundamentally far more fragmented, decentralized. It's not possible for them to negotiate in that manner.
No, that's great. John, when we think of like Web3, what are some of the limitations for artists and collectors? I mean, frankly, I think that is probably technology may be one of the bigger limiting factors, I think, for further adoption. But what are those technology advancements we need to make, in your mind, for more people to come on board?
Yeah, I mean, my reference being art, I think the ubiquity of display is something that's going to like really help, you know, bring more people into the space. Like, we recently opened a storefront in Soho. You know, a big part of that is to still, you know, like to show people what does it mean to like display an NFT, like how can you engage with it, like, and so I think just we're still in this education phase of like people understanding like what the technology is and how to interact with it. You know, I think people are used to, you know, Apple style integrated, you know, user experiences, and we're certainly still not there. You know, like, even not necessarily like abstracting away all the blockchain components, but just like having a unified experience. Like, there's no standard for display, so it's like, if you have a Samsung frame, it's, you know, a different experience than if you have a mural, and it's a different experience than if you kind of have your own, you know, do-it-yourself, you know, Raspberry Pi setup, like whatever it is. Like, we built a standard for NFTs, but we need more standards in the ecosystem to make the kind of like holistic experience be better. And so I think that, at least for us and like the art ecosystem, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and I'll just maybe add on to that and plus one that, because, you know, in order to get the next billion users, right, they're probably not going to be crypto native. And so we got to, as a technologist, we got to stop talking about technology, right? When was the last time you downloaded a mobile app and the main draw was it's because it's on Amazon Web Services, right? Or it's a Google Cloud platform app. No, you think about the value that it brings, what it can do, and it's fast, and it solves your problem. And I think that's where Web3 needs to go. And those are the technology layers that I think are going to be important as the foundation there.
Same for music, in your mind?
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that take. I think these products, all of the products that you know we build, are serving a job for their users, and the tools that these products use to achieve that job shouldn't be something that the user needs to think about, right? I love that comparison, right? No one used Facebook over Friendster because Facebook was built on MySQL and Friendster was built on God knows whatever Oracle thing they would have bought in 2001, right? But it's like, who cares, right? Product does a job, and I think that's, you know, over time how we'll come to see, you know, the whatever sets of technologies the market consolidates around over time. They're the enablers of these experiences that users are enjoying and getting excited about.
Yeah, in some sense, we need Web 2 design in the front and Web 3 in the back. You know, the new modern mullet. You know, the new technology mullet we're going to be building here. So Nhan, I want to ask you a question. You know, I think there's so much innovation being pushed by creators, but at the same time we have to kind of balance trust because we're all kind of pushing the envelope on what can be done or what type of experimentation with these new kind of digital assets we can do. One of the things I really liked about what Metaplex does is there's dedication to education for not only just the creator, but the community and the collector. Can you talk about the role of education as we continue to bring these people on and what you believe your role is in that as well?
Absolutely. So, I think as the standards bearer for Solana NFTs, we've gone through the process of earning the trust of the entire ecosystem. I would say we've got a couple of takeaways, right? Openness and transparency is super important. So all of our code is open source. Everyone can see exactly what it does. And as it relates to creators raising a ton of money, right? Basically, that's what they do. They do these drops, and they raise a bunch of money, and they're going to promise that they're going to deliver some type of value to the customer, right, or the community. And within a year, Metaplex has created probably just over $3 billion in value for creators, and so there's actually a lot of projects that haven't fulfilled what they've promised, and I think this is where it gets into the weird part about trust, right? So there's a social bit, right? Open source your code, docs yourself, put out roadmaps, communicate well, pretty standard stuff. But I think the interesting areas of innovation are actually on the technology side, right? Where you don't need to rely on people to have the trust, you actually rely on trustless protocols to garner the trust. And what I mean by that, there's many versions of this, right? You could have the proceeds go into a DAO, and then now it's governed by the NFT holders. You could have it go into a vesting contract. But I really actually like the idea of the oxymoron that trustlessness or trustless programs are actually going to bring more trust to the community because it's a community-driven process of dispersing funds and proving that the creator is doing what they're doing before they get paid.
Yeah, and since it is all open, there is public record about how these creators engage with their communities, and we've seen that happen, and that kind of creates some kind of policing, maybe self-policing as well. Roneil, I want to talk about. We'll do a spicy question. What do you think the role of Web 2 social platforms are in Web 3? We saw Meta announce, Polygon NFTs on Instagram. Do you think they merge over to Web 3? Do you think this needs to be built from the ground up? What's their role in this future world?
Yeah, this is such a good question. So I think where there are viable Web3 counterparts to existing Web2 networks, over time, those counterparts are going to win for the simple reason that they can make their users owners of them, and through the process of doing that, they can incentivize their users to, for lack of a better term, like vampire attack these existing social networks and bring their audiences, their content, their everything else to these new networks. It's really simple, actually, right? It's just it's a very different economic value proposition. But that said, I think that transition is going to play out over quite a large number of years, and I think our community stands to benefit tremendously from embracing these folks who are, coming in to Web3 and wanting to, give the tools and the things that we all and the creators we work with and everything else are creating and bring them to larger and larger audiences. That's only good for all of us, right? As kind of pessimistic as I am about their 10, 15, 20 year kind of viability, we're in the earliest of stages of this transition, and I think there are really genuinely good people there working on these things with very positive intent, and we should always welcome that and be supportive of it.
John, do you?
I mean, I think it's interesting, like, just even the Twitter profile pictures, like the merging of the two is going to be interesting and probably not look exactly like what we think it'll look like. But, it's like a lot of the value that Web3 provides is around kind of like asset ownership, identity that you own. And I mean, like, these Web2 platforms have, massive technology stacks they've been working on for decades at this point. So the two coming together is going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see what that's like.
Yeah, that is a very good point too that I didn't get to mention, but like the ability for users to have sovereignty over their engagement. Yeah, I mean there's gonna be a lot of friction there in that. Like that's the kind of the reason for existence of these Web2 platforms.
I like the idea of somebody trying to vampire attack Twitter though. That'll be fun to watch.
So what I also think is really cool about this panel is we have two of the first creator platforms that are at good, great scale and also have started to do, tokenize, maybe, I'm not going to say that this is exactly what you're doing, but like exit to the community in a sense. And actually, John, maybe you want to show your forearm. So the rare token right there. So can you talk more about that? Because I think this is a really exciting part of Web3, and what are your hopes for it? And then maybe, I know Roneil, you have the Audius token as well. What are your hopes for it, and how does it amplify the platforms you're building?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was always like just a matter of when, not if, right? I think DAOs are sort of just the next iteration of human coordination, right? The whole point of corporations were started because people were like going on ships out to sea, like on an endeavor. So it's like coordinating capital, coordinating human resources, trying to achieve specific goals. And I think DAOs and tokenization is kind of just the next iteration. It's like, this is what it looks like when you don't have physical stock certificates that you need to like shuffle around and mail to people. And so, yeah, for us, it was like, we were always going to do it. And it's pretty exciting, right? Like, our whole business was on chain since we launched, right? All the NFTs are on Ethereum, the fees are paid, in tokens. And so it was, fairly trivial to have that, like, just basically flip a switch, those fees are going to a community, this treasury is controlled by token holders, and, it kind of, it just aligns incentives, right? Like Roneil was talking about, like, that's one of the advantages Web3 has over Web2 is, Twitter is never going to be able to do that. So what does it look like when you come together and try to align incentives with the users and platform builders to build better systems?
Not just treasury though. There's also an element of this token helping with the curation process as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, when we launched, the first use case of the rare token has been to onboard space operators. So we built a product. It's called SuperRare Spaces, and they're independently curated parts of SuperRare. Curation is can be a sort of like a hot button topic. You have on one side people who it's like everything's permissionless. This is like Bitcoin. Anyone should be able to use everything. But there's this give and take in that, like, if it's completely open, you end up having to just send a bunch of engineering resources dealing with spam and fraud, and so it's like there's a lot of back and forth. So we've kind of tried to take a middle approach, like lean on human curation, and so like scaling curation for SuperRare kind of meant like allowing other people to launch their own galleries. These spaces, the vision for them is to ultimately be kind of like subreddits, where it's like this space is dedicated to glitch art, or this space is dedicated to photography, right? Like there's, I don't know, our internal curation team is incredible, but they also have their own opinions, and like there's other people who can, bring together these kind of sub-communities that, are experts in their own domains.
No, I think that's super interesting. I mean, often, discussion around Twitter is open up what the algorithm is, but what you're doing is putting the keys in the community's hands in a sense, which is really interesting. Maybe Roneil, you could talk about a little bit your vision around the opportunities around tokens and the platform, these creation platforms themselves.
Yeah, I think John, you already kind of covered a lot of the same way we think about things. You know, so maybe I'll offer some of the philosophical like reasoning for why we felt Audius needed to be structured this way and kind of what benefits that gives us over time. But in music broadly, there is kind of a fundamental lack of trust that has emerged as a result of these inequitable economics that I kind of referenced earlier, but also just through a history of artists generally being taken advantage of by various parties, right? And you know, we felt really the only way to create a durable, long-term kind of opportunity around that fan aggregation vision that I laid out was for the very creators that created or bring their audiences to this network to own the network as well, right? And for the owners of capital in this structure to not be separate from the users or utilizers of the network. When those two groups of people are separate, there's bound to be misalignment at some stage, and that misalignment has always led to, in the music industry at least, you know, the folks who are providing new capital in the form of content being taken advantage of by the legacy owners of capital in these systems. So, and I think you know, none of these ideas and things are new, right? You know, if you go read like Karl Marx's work or many other folks' work, right? They've talked in and around these issues and ideas for a long time. I think what tokens gave us was the first kind of scalable technological means of representing control of a network system, set of code, whatever kind of you know, ways you want to describe what these protocols start to look like over time, but to do so in a way that is scalable and could serve, you know, millions, hundreds of millions of potential fractional controllers of that commons.
Awesome. So I know we have a few minutes left, and we wanted to hand it over to the audience to ask some questions as well. But before we do that, for anyone in the audience who might want to follow you or get in touch with you, like where's the best place? Are you on Twitter? You know, we can start with you.
I'm on Twitter. NHANVP is the handle. Follow me. I have basically 0 followers. And I've been told by my PR team that I need to tweet more, because that's the crypto thing to do.
Your PR team can thank me. We just pump the handle.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm SuperRare John on Twitter, and that's probably the best place to connect. I'm also learning from my PR team. I need to tweet more often.
And I think I'm in the same boat. I'm just my first name and the letter R for my last name on Twitter. And follow Audius Project on Twitter as well. That's much more active, and there's much more interesting stuff there than mine.
Well, likewise, I need to tweet more as well, so we all have something in common. But we save our great thoughts for these panel sessions, right?
Absolutely.
We don't want to give it all away. Then
You can't leak the alpha to the world.
Exactly.
Job security.
So we got a few minutes left. Yeah, I would love to have some of the audience. And just hold the mic up directly to your mouth.
This is Roneil. As an artist who's really excited about Audius, and as an Ableton certified trainer who's been working with Billboard and Grammy Award winning artists, I've been really excited to onboard people into this space. And I just want to know, what's the expectation for Audius to be fully functional when it comes to the reward, the ability to claim the token that gives the artist ownership? Because as a user on the platform, I've been trying desperately for about 4 months to just claim one audio token. So I just want to know, is it to be expected to have that functionality, or is that something that we're waiting for? I've been trying to hit y'all's on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, support, and I just want to see where we're at with that, because I know Web3 is like a new, we're developing your building, so I just want to know, before I connect with my community to bring them into this space, what expectations they should have when it comes to claiming that token and being a part of the community, because I haven't been able to do that myself.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that it hasn't been working for you. So to date, over 100 million audio tokens have been distributed to users of the network through various channels and means. The vast majority of users, as far as we're aware, haven't had issues claiming. So I'll find you afterwards and try and work out your problem. I'm sorry we haven't, I think our community hasn't quite been able to scale its ability to provide support with the level of usage that the network has had. So we haven't quite been able to get to everything, and I just feel really sad that you fell through the cracks there. So would love to have the chance to rectify that.
Hi, this is for you as well, about Audius. I was just wondering, how do discussions and relationships go with major labels and onboarding, music and content that's already owned by some of those bigger entities?
Yeah, so it's I would say the vast majority of Audius users are independent, and that's that's not surprising given some of the complexities here. So the typical flow for artists who is signed, they have to go get approval from any and all of the fractional owners of their rights, right? And for very well-established artists, there are potentially tens, even over 100 people in some cases that would need to sign off. Realistically, that means it doesn't happen, right? And their content isn't able to live on the network today because of that. So it's a ongoing process, I think, with especially with those artists, their management teams, et cetera, to figure out how or whether it does make sense for them to engage here. In the interim, the vast majority of the world's artists who are independent can come hang out and play on Audius without any issues.
So for the independent artist space and other platforms, how do you see you guys differentiating from, say, SoundCloud or AudioMac or, Spinrilla or, any of those other, platforms?
Also a great question. So, I think we see Audius being the best place to build a fan base, to grow a fan base where you own those relationships with the fans. You can pull data for who are they, where are they, what's their wallet address. You can, some of our folks in our community have airdropped assets to them, for example. So it's really around sovereignty and control of that audience. If you disagree with the choices that our team makes around building the first-party version of Audius, the majority of Audius usage actually comes from interfaces that are not ours, right? And you can actually carry your fans between those experiences without giving up your audience, right? Every time, for every kind of SoundCloud or AudioMac that exists today, there's a MySpace or among that wasteland of historical kind of streaming platforms. Every time one of these kind of comes to prominence and then falls off for whatever variety of reasons that they do, that audience, that asset that the artist has built up is lost, right? And that was really the goal for Audius. Our company could go away today and all of this would continue to work. All of those fan relationships would continue to be valuable to you, so long as you, as a creator, want to utilize them.
I have a question about ownership. So I have an organization. We support thousands of artists across the country, and I'm wondering, where do you guys think that that smart contracts will basically end up in terms of copyright and rights to reproduce? I'm most particularly interested in where you think copyright will end up. Will they be individuated best practices and it's up to the artists to figure out their own smart contracts? Or will it be a single platform where there's kind of a universality and the ability to figure out how to make it work across global geopolitical boundaries?
I can talk to the copyright, at least for SuperRare. So I mean, copyright's a big deal, and we kind of tried to model ours after like existing standards with traditional art. So when you buy a painting, you're not buying the copyright, you're sort of like buying one manifestation of it. And I think this is another area where standardization is super important. So I think like where we end up is each NFT kind of comes with a set of copyright, trademark standards that apply to that specific asset. You know, you could see, like for example, with like stock photography, right? Like that's one you like has a single purpose. That's a different licensing agreement than comes with like a fine art NFT. So I think eventually it gets standardized. It's unfortunately not standardized right now. But we've spent a lot of time like trying to make our terms of service very simple and like outlining a framework for, you know, how you could build something like this. And I forget the second question that you had. Oh, yeah, so I think it kind of has to be, I mean, like, I don't think there's like a simple way to have sort of like jurisdictional differences. I think it would be more like try to build it as simple and logical as possible. And then I think jurisdictions should probably shape their laws to conform to these frameworks that we crowdsource together.
Awesome. I think we're a little bit over time, so I want to thank our panelists and thank you all for coming to this session.